Hold up. Load up. Good girl. Today we're going to be working inside the garage because it's really cold outside here in Northern California and windy as all get out. I think we're pushing upwards of 30-mile-an-hour winds, which is kind of normal for this time of year in Northern California in the valley, but not very conducive to filming. Today we're going to be working on some plastics. I'm going to experiment with different kinds of plastics and see how well they shrink or wrap around things, because what I want to do is eventually get outside, grab my kayak, bring it inside and wrap it in plastic. We don't use it through most of the winter, so I just kind of want to protect it from the UV rays of the sun and all the other harsh weather that we get out here. Nothing like Alaska or any of those other places, but still the sun is pretty intense out here, and if I can get all that covered up and protected from the sun, I think it'll prolong the life of our kayak so we can use them all summer. Anyway, check it out. Okay guys, some of the things that we're going to be using for today's experiment are this Drill Master brand. It's basically a Harbor Freight tool. It was really cheap, but it works really well. I've got this little Skill electric razor cutter. This thing cuts through plastic like butter. I actually purchased this to do my turf in my backyard, to cut the turf, and it worked surprisingly well, and that stuff is pretty heavy duty. So I really like this tool. We're going to try and plastic wrap just this can here, mostly because I want to see if, when we shrink the plastic around it, if it'll span this gap pretty well, and if so, how well it does that. We're going to try different types of plastics. I got some 6 mil, I got some 2 mil. This is 3.5 mil black, which I hope works well, because it being black, I think it'll do well to protect the kayaks and that from the sun. We also got some, this is just a piece of plastic from a dog food bag. We'll see what that does. Some plastic. This is the plastic that you typically find around a bottle of water or a case of water. I think this might work pretty well, because when you buy the water, this is already heat shrunk around the water. So I think it's actually made to do that. So we'll check that out. We got a piece of Walmart shopping bag. So the interesting thing about the Walmart shopping bags here in California is that they recently mandated that you pay for your plastic bags. So when they did that, they actually increased the thickness of the bag. So these bags are actually pretty heavy duty. So I'm interested to see how that pans out. Then we might try a couple other things like a water bottle and see what happens with all this stuff. The first thing we're going to start off with is the 2 mil plastic. Just cut a little piece here. Got some rubber bands here. See if they hold up to the heat. Just put them on here to kind of hold the plastic in place. Alright, so that melted pretty easily, pretty quickly. The only thing is though, is it heated up and created like this bubble on the inside. Looks like I lost a rubber band off of here too. It actually shrunk pretty good though. I mean, it's pretty tight around the can. I just don't like the way that bubbled up. Let's pull this off. Try try some of the other plastic. This can is pretty hot, by the way. All right, next up is the Walmart bag. I think last time since the rubber band just popped off, I think we'll try this without the rubber band. So the Walmart bag actually worked really well. It heated up and shrunk a lot faster than the other plastic, and it didn't create that bubble inside this time. And it's actually pretty tight and well sealed. Again, the can is pretty warm. But all in all, that's actually a really good job. Pop this off and try the next one. All right, so the next type of plastic we're going to use is this black, and I believe it's 3.5 mil. Like I said, this one I'm actually hoping works pretty well because it's blacked out, so it should block all the UV rays from the sun. Let's give it a shot. And I'm just going to hold it on the can again. That seemed to work pretty well. Better than the rubber band. I think because I can keep a little bit more steady pressure on the plastic and keep it a little taut versus having the rubber band on there. I'm going to try something different too. I'm going to try and seal this to itself on the bottom of the can. See how this works. Oh, that's really tight. So the black one, a little warmer. The black actually shrunk pretty well and actually got nice and tight over the gap. You can almost play a drum with that. I had a little problem though. I think the sheet that I cut was a little too big, so it was kind of a little bit more challenging to manipulate around the bottle. But it shrunk up really nice. And that's really tight over the gap. That one's pretty good. Kind of like that. Let's pop it off and try the next one. So this next one is the heavy duty. This is a 6 mil plastic. I don't know if I'm going to have to crank the heat up on this one to actually get it to melt or if it'll work just as it is. Trying to figure out too the best way to hold in this thing and keeping this stuff secure and keeping it in place while you're trying to warm it up. Because it gets pretty hot even with the glove on. But I don't like the rubber bands. I don't think they do a very good job. Alright, so the 6 mil is definitely way more heavy duty, and it actually shrunk pretty nice. As you can kind of see, I got a little hole right here in the top. I think that was for me though. I was kind of pulling down on it, trying to stretch it as I was heating it up, and I think I stretched it a little bit too far and actually created that hole. It's really super heavy duty though. I mean, it's thick. And it's probably just as tight as the black. as far as covering that span, but it's way more heavy duty. The problem with this though is that it took so much more heat and so much more longer to get it to shrink to where you get this nice tension on it. And that creates a problem, like depending on what you're trying to wrap. If you're trying to wrap like a plastic kayak like I am, you can't have a lot of heat on it for that long. I don't think that's going to work for what I want it to do, mostly because of what I'm trying to wrap. If I was trying to wrap something metal and it didn't really matter how hot the item got, that might be the way to go, because that's really heavy duty. Anyway, pop this one off and see what's next. Man, this one's hard to get off, period. Some heavy duty stuff right there. All right, so next up we have some of this, it's a dog food bag that I just cut up, and I kind of wanted to try it. I don't like this tear that's right here. So cut out that piece. This is really heavy duty. I have no idea what's going to happen when you do this. This might even be heavier duty than that. But I think I'm going to use the rubber band again. Mostly because this piece is cut kind of short. It's hard to hold on to. See what happens with this. Alright guys, this is a lot similar to the heavy duty plastic. It took a lot of heat to get it to shrink, and actually it didn't shrink very well at all, to be honest with you. It did shrink, and it's got a nice span that gap really well. That's really tight. But I don't know, it's again, I think it's just too much heat for most practical uses. You really got to heat this guy up to get it to wrap around there, shrink up, and actually be useful. But you know, if this is all you had and you needed to cover something pretty quickly, that might be an option for you. Again, it definitely cleared that span really well. It's nice and tight. I really like how tight it is, and it didn't go all the way around the can. This just covered the top. And it's got print on it, so the UV shouldn't be able to penetrate through to whatever you're trying to cover. So this could be an option. The can is starting to smell like whatever was in it before. I don't know what was in there, but maybe green beans. So what's next? This one I'm really interested in. So this is that wrap that comes around your cases of water when you buy cases of water, and it's, you know, it's already kind of heat shrunk. So I'm thinking this might work actually pretty well. Also trying to think of the best way to cover this thing. Go with the rubber band again. Maybe I shouldn't have picked a cylindrical object to try and cover, but this could be indicative of like anything that you're trying to cover. You know, it's never going to be perfectly symmetrical, so you got to kind of deal with, yeah. Wow, that worked actually really well. Much like the 2 mil though, we got an air bubble in there. Wait for it to cool off a little bit, see if that contracts and gets tight. But not only did this shrink really fast and conform to the item that I was shrinking, but it bonded to itself really quickly and really well. As you can see here on the bottom. Now it went from a bubble to kind of concaved, like it's sucking in. It must just be the heat. Now it is on the can, the expansion and contraction. Oh, that's really tight. I'm not gonna lie, that's probably the best so far. If you need to wrap something small and you've got some of that stuff, that's kind of the way to go. I don't think I'm going to be wrapping my kayak with this. That would be a little ridiculous, but that stuff works really well. I can't believe how tight that is. That's really wrapped on everything really well. Didn't need to heat up anything too crazy. That worked really good. All right, so that's the last of the plastic sheet stuff that I have to try. The last thing I wanted to try was this water bottle. This is really heavy duty. I don't know what. This is definitely heavier than the 6 mil. So I have no idea what the density is of this water bottle. Let's cut the ends off. Go grab a paper towel to dry that out. I don't know if the water would have any effect on this or not. I would assume that it would. Creates cool spots in the plastic as you're trying to heat it up, and probably won't let it dry all the way. Anyway, so we got a little cylinder now. I've got these shims. They're plastic shims, and they're just kind of laying out here. What I want to try and do is see if I can put them all together, put them through here, and heat shrink around this. Alright guys, I would say by far and away the best working plastic that we used so far was the actual water bottle. It shrank really quickly, it shrank a lot. It is super tight. Well, like I can't even get these shims out of here. I don't know how practical that would be for covering a kayak, but if you could find something of that similar material, well, that would work really well. And it's super hard. I think you have it's almost as hard as those things you buy from the store, toys or whatever. And they have that packaging around it that you wind up just cussing everything out because it's so hard to get into. That's about how sturdy this stuff is right here. I also like the wrap that came off of the cases of water. That worked really well as well. But again, coming down to the practicality of trying to cover a kayak is not really feasible. And I don't know how you would attach all these together without shrinking it up first. Just, I don't know, presents a lot of challenges. I think overall the best, what I'm going to try is the black plastic. It's black, so the UVs won't go through it. It's easy to work with. I've got a whole roll of it. Right here it's the Husky brand plastic sheet. It is the 3.5 mil. It even says used for bike and boat cover. So we're going to give this a try. I'm pretty sure this is the Home Depot brand. But anyway, stay tuned. The next video is going to be of me wrapping one of these kayaks. I'm going to try the small one first, and then if it goes well, then I'll go ahead and do the big one. Yeah, stay tuned.